The HOA president was already waiting at the end of my driveway, clipboard in hand, pointing at my dog like he was a crime scene. If you love seeing bullies get taken down the smart way, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to QZ Stories, where every story ends with justice served. She didn't even say hello, just jabbed a finger toward Max, my 80-pound rescue shepherd mix, and told me he had to be gone in 30 days. Her voice was sharp, clipped, like she'd rehearsed this moment. Max sat beside me, calm as ever, head tilted, his tail thumping softly against the porch. He wasn't aggressive, just big. That was his only crime. HOA policy doesn't allow dangerous breeds or oversized dogs, she announced, as if the words themselves were law. I asked to see that policy. She flipped her clipboard, avoiding eye contact, and mumbled something about community safety. Let me back up. I moved into this neighborhood for its quiet streets and fenced backyards, perfect for a rescue dog who'd been through enough. Max had survived abuse and neglect before I adopted him, and I wasn't about to let some petty rule push him out again. The rest of that day, I didn't argue. I just smiled, nodded, and let her think she'd won. But in my head, the wheels were already turning. I've learned something over the years. When someone tries to push you, the worst thing you can do is push back in anger. Better to step aside, let them overreach, and then close the trap. That night, I poured myself a coffee and opened my laptop. The words HOA dog regulations led me to state housing laws, animal welfare statutes, and even federal guidelines under the Fair Housing Act. I took notes, lots of them. What I found was better than I'd hoped. State law prohibited breed-specific discrimination, and any size limits had to be tied to a legitimate safety hazard, not just because we said so. My favorite part? Emotional support and service animals were protected from almost all HOA restrictions. I started a file, screenshots of the HOA's own handbook, emails from neighbors who had larger dogs but hadn't been targeted, photos of Max in his therapy vest from the shelter days, visiting nursing homes. Every detail mattered. I even contacted a quiet ally, a local attorney who specialized in HOA disputes. "This one's cut and dry," he told me over the phone. "If they try to enforce it, they're breaking state law." By the time I closed my laptop, I wasn't just ready to defend Max. I was ready to make sure no one else in the neighborhood had to deal with this kind of nonsense again. Stay calm. Stay smart. Build the case, brick by brick. That's the way you win. The next HOA meeting was in the clubhouse. Fluorescent lights, folding chairs, and the smell of burnt coffee. I brought Max's adoption papers, my binder of research, and a quiet confidence. When my turn came, the president leaned back in her chair, smirking. "We've given you 30 days to remove the animal," she said, like it was already decided. I slid a printed copy of the state statute across the table. "Actually," I said, "you can't." My voice was calm, steady, no heat, no tremble. She didn't touch the paper, just scanned it. Frown deepening, I continued. "Your own bylaws contradict this enforcement. And here," I opened my binder, "are 3 other dogs in this community over your stated weight limit. None of them have been given notice." The room went quiet. One board member cleared his throat, another shifted uncomfortably. I let the silence hang. Silence makes people feel the weight of their mistakes. Finally, I closed my binder. "You're welcome to consult your attorney, but if you continue this action, you'll be facing a formal complaint to the State Housing Authority, and I'll win." I left the meeting with Max at my side, his nails clicking softly against the floor. I didn't need their approval. I had the law. A week later, an official HOA letter arrived. Not a retraction, but a final warning. They wanted to save face. It was a mistake on their part. Every action they took now only strengthened my case. I sent my attorney the letter. He drafted a response so precise it read like a scalpel cutting through their argument. Attached were copies of my evidence, witness statements from neighbors, and a reminder of the fines the HOA could face for each day of non-compliance with state law. Then I filed the official complaint with the housing authority. No shouting, no threats. Just paperwork and process. Within 2 weeks, the HOA received notice of an investigation. I heard later that their legal fees skyrocketed, and that their insurance refused to cover disputes caused by willful violation of the law. The same board members who smirked at me now avoided eye contact in the street. The president? She still tried to act unbothered, but her clipped "good morning" carried a bitterness she couldn't hide. The state's decision came in my mailbox on a Tuesday afternoon. The HOA was found in violation of state housing law. They were ordered to retract all enforcement actions, issue a written apology, and amend their bylaws to align with the law. I made copies of the letter and discreetly slid them into the mailboxes of every homeowner in the community, not to gloat, but so everyone would know their rights. Max still sits on the porch every morning watching the neighborhood go by. Sometimes I catch the president walking past, eyes fixed straight ahead, pretending he isn't there. But he is, and so am I. Stay calm. Stay smart. Never fight on their terms. Make them fight on yours. That's how you win. And change the rules for good.